I didn't have enough time with Chadwick. He was here far too short a time.
Chadwick was a deeply kind and gentle person. There will forever be an irreplaceable piece missing from our Marvel family.
He's a historical figure as the Black Panther, but also such a good and decent human being.
To all of those little kids that love Black Panther and look to T'Challa as their hero, just know that the guy who played him is an even bigger hero in real life.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I'm Tyrone. That is Devin. Wait, before we get into this heartfelt double feature tribute to Chadwick Boseman, can you please do us a favor and hit that subscribe button right down there? All right, we would greatly appreciate it. We wanted to, talk about a couple films that Chadwick Boseman starred in, and we're going to talk about 42 first, the Jackie Robinson story.
I have a plan. Everybody in baseball is going to be against me. I'm going to bring a Negro ball player, the Brooklyn Dodgers. I don't know who he is, but he's coming.
Right after the war, so everyone wanted to get back to the normal things of America. America's pastime is baseball, and the owner of the Dodgers at the time, played by Harrison Ford, he's like, I want to get a Negro ball player to play in this club. And as soon as he said that to his people, they were like, hey, what are you trying to do here? You trying to ruin us? He's like, no, because he said there's Black people in Brooklyn, and they got green, just like we got green.
So with 42, I guess the reason why I chose this one is because apparently this is the film that Kevin Feige saw that made him think, I think this guy could be T'Challa, But
cemented him was Get On Up, though.
Yeah. When I watched this film, I watched it with that thought in mind. I'm like, what did he see in this guy? Because at the time, cast your mind back to 2000, whatever year this is,
2013, yeah.
Yeah. At the time, Chadwick Boseman was just black guy number 3.
Kevin Feige said, you know what? He was our only choice. Why do you think that was years ago?
I have no idea. He hasn't given me a good answer yet.
I'd seen him in things, but he was nothing. He was never in my mind, a particularly standout actor. But it wasn't until 42 he started to get a lot of attention. And so I was watching Chadwick a lot in this film. And just like you said, this movie takes place in the 40s, and the MLB wants to integrate, well, I should say the Brooklyn Dodgers in particular. Want to integrate. And overall, I thought this movie was corny as this was a corny movie.
Oh, what made it corny, man?
That first scene with Harrison Ford, I was like, whoa, this is going to be a long film. He was like, it's time to integrate. And I'm like,
why are we making this man sound like Nixon? Man? That's what it felt like, right? We want all the black people.
Yeah, but to Harrison Ford's credit, though, he did a good job, right? He did a good job. And that, to me, is the crux of this film. This is a bad film with really good actors. And Harrison Ford turns in a great performance. Chadwick Boseman turns in a very soulful performance with someone who with you can see rage behind his eyes, but he does not ever act on it. And because and that tension that comes from Chadwick's performance moves this film forward. I think if there was another guy playing Jackie Robinson, this movie would probably be where it belongs, and that is on the bottom rung and forgotten in time. Because it's a corny film. I don't know, but I suspect, I'm going to double check though, I suspect this movie was made by white people because there's a lot of black people fighting the symbols of segregation, but not actually fighting segregation, right? Yeah, Jackie Robinson actually fought the actual segregation, but they could not focus on that. They could only focus on him being like, I'm walking in this whites only bathroom.
Hey, you, where are you going?
The toilet.
Hell, come on, boy. You know you can't go in there.
But the movie is so like caught up with the symbols of segregation and less with the actual realities of it. And all the white people, with some exceptions, were cartoonishly evil. You know, saying the N-word over and over and over. And while racism does sometimes present itself like that, right? Especially back then.
Cartoony, yeah.
Yeah, and especially back then and today too. Most racism is a lot more subtle, right?
It's covert.
Yes, they will smile in your face and stab you in the back, type of thing, right? And this movie has nothing to do with that. And to me, it makes me think it was written by someone who doesn't understand that, right? which is why I'm assuming I think it's made by white people.
It's just based on a true story, and that true story comes from their minds of what they thought it was to be racist, and also what they felt like it to be black in 1946.
Exactly. So, and just like you said, it came from their minds. So it was well intentioned, right? It's not. I don't want to look like I'm body slamming it, but it was well intentioned, but still a little ignorant. But despite that, Harrison Ford and Chadwick Boseman elevate this movie to heights that I don't think the movie even deserves to be there. So kudos to those guys.
When you say about cartoony racism, the Phillies manager, I know that actor. That actor was in Dodgeball.
Yeah, he was.
And he played a really racist guy, because the stuff that he was saying, I was like, Jackie Robinson, man, you are the best of us, because I would have clocked that dude. This guy, I felt like this film was made by Quentin Tarantino with how many N-words he had.
I was like, oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? But and that was just from his character alone.
Yeah, from one guy.
Other people have said it too.
Not saying that's not realistic. It's just unsubtle, right? Like I'm confident there were plenty of people doing that at the time. Confident, but to only show that one aspect of Jackie Robinson's plight with racism, unsubtle.
I want to give some props to, of course, the set design, the people who made this feel like a 1940s film. Yeah. It was living in it. I mean, from the outfits, the uniforms that they were wearing back then, because back then no one had their names on the back of the jerseys. Yeah.
And obviously Ebbets Field does not exist anymore. If it did, it'd be almost right behind me, because I'm in Brooklyn. It's not there anymore. So I felt like it was a real place in the film. So kudos to those guys for that.
Kudos for that. But I do understand the cartooniness of this film. Yeah. But I'm going to give this film a C+.
Great. I'm giving this one a C. The only issue I had with the way it looked was I felt like there's like this yellowish green hue.
It was very yellow.
Film. It was like someone barfed on the film. And I'm like, did no one see this?
Do they want to make it seem like an old-timey newspaper, maybe?
Yeah, they're trying to make it look like it's sepia toned or something. But shouldn't that be leaning more towards like a brownish yellow? But this was like greenish yellowish. And I thought that was ugly. Despite its yellowish hue, despite some of the cartoonish versions of racism that, again, totally existed then, still exists now, but the most interesting and the most prevalent parts of racism are a lot more subtle and a lot more scary and less cartoonish. That stuff is not in the film. And so despite all of that, the movie gets elevated by Harrison Ford and Chadwick Boseman. And I think this is a really good example of why casting is important. Because sometimes I'll overlook it. I'm like, anybody could do that, can play that role. But I don't think anybody but Chadwick Boseman and Harrison Ford could have pulled this movie out of the muck. And they did.
For sure. Yeah, and I gave this film a C+, and Devin gave this film a C. Do you recommend people seeing it?
Sure, just for Chadwick. Just for Chadwick. This is a Chadwick Boseman special. Come for Chadwick, leave for Chadwick. Ignore the movie.
Right. You could watch this film right now on HBO Max, and that is our review and rating for 42. Now let's scoot on over to Marshall.
Baby, you go into these towns who've never seen a Negro lawyer.
Hey, Bart!
You need to be careful. NAACP.
Thurgood, you're going to Connecticut.
Joseph Spell, Negro servant, attached socialite in her own bedroom.
Marshall takes place around the same time, and he's playing Thurgood Marshall, NAACP attorney.
Then NAACP attorney. He's mostly known for being the first Black Supreme Court justice.
Exactly. Thank you. I thought that this film was not about Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah. I'm going to say the same thing. I'm like, where's Thurgood? Where's Marshall?
I thought it was clear that this film is centered around one case that he was doing that I guess was such a big case for him that made him more of a renowned attorney. It revolves around a case of a man who was unjustly accused of raping his employer. They found out that he had consensual sex with this woman, but at this time in the 40s, a white woman and a black man, she was ashamed, and he didn't want to get in trouble, and all that had to come out from the lawyering that Thurgood Marshall did. But he couldn't even do it. He had to get the help from what is his name?
Josh Gad. This movie is mostly about Josh Gad. This is a Josh Gad vehicle. And Chadwick Boseman is in the passenger seat riding along, And that was a surprise because it's called Marshall, right? So I was like, oh, that's a surprise. And like you said, this movie's about a guy who is accused of raping a white woman. And it is revealed through the film that they had consensual sex. It wasn't rape, it was consensual. But the movie, interestingly, reminds you that consensual sex between a black man and a white woman was still illegal back then, right? And it was still a death sentence, right? So an informal Wild Wild West type death sentence for black people. So for me, I thought that was fascinating. I thought the case was fascinating. But again, we decided to watch these films for Chadwick, and unfortunately, Chadwick plays a much smaller role than I ever thought he would. As a matter of fact, I would say he plays a supporting role in this film. So if you really want to see Chadwick's skill, it's probably not on display here, mostly because the judge in the case ruled, and it's insinuated in the film that the judge is a racist, ruled that Chadwick's character, Thurgood Marshall, could not speak in his courtroom.
He may not speak.
Your Honor, I must speak for the client.
He may not speak, argue, or examine witnesses. If he violates this ruling, he will be held in contempt of court. And you as well, Mr. Friedman. You will conduct this case.
Me? So Chadwick's character had to whisper to Josh Gad's character anytime he wanted to get a point across.
Or write down what he wanted to say.
Which means you've got Chadwick Boseman scribbling notes and whispering in ears for almost 2 hours, which sucks.
All of the stuff that Chadwick Boseman did that was outside of the courtroom, he really put it on display, like when his wife had a miscarriage.
I liked this movie. I think this was a better movie than 42.
Really?
But a worse showcase of Chadwick Boseman's skill than 42. I thought the case that they highlighted was a strange case they choose. At least in the beginning, I'm like, why do they choose this case? Because Thurgood Marshall literally can't say anything. But the case was fascinating, and I've been thinking about the case a lot. And there's a lot of great tension because the film does not really let on what really happened, right? We just kind of have to hear both arguments and you kind of have to decide for yourself. And because of that, there's a lot of tension, right? Because we catch the accused guy in a lie, a big lie in the middle of the film, which makes you think, oh my God, is this guy an actual rapist? And that kind of tension, I like that a lot. But we watched this film for Chadwick and we got Josh Gad.
Oh yeah, you know what I did? I did like the lawyering, the courtroom stuff at the end where the closing arguments happen, where Chadwick did this little ink thing.
Oh
in water.
That was great.
And he showed Josh Gad's character.
He did that in court,
and he was like, "This is a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
This is doubt. This is
great.
doubt." I'm like, "Yo!"
Yeah, that was great.
And the water's murky. The water's murky.
Yeah, can you really convict this man because of this murky water? That was a great little demonstration. I thought that was excellent. But this movie suffers from other issues that I thought, interestingly, 42 suffers from, and that it is also unsubtle, right? The white people are like, "What you do, man? He's black." The shotgun, So it's like, all right. But then you do get a little hint of the subtle stuff in the courtroom, right? With the judge and things like that. But for the most part, everyone's cartoon characters, and that kind of sucks. And there's also another really bad, to me, really bad, painfully unsubtle thing at the end, where the last time we see Thurgood Marshall's character, he's flanked by these three people, and in real life, that's Trayvon Martin's parents and Trayvon Martin's parents' lawyer, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
no.
that was them in this. Wow, how did I not notice that?
And I just thought that was tacky. I was like, oh my, the reason why it's tacky is because it's another real life tragedy, man. Like I don't like black pain as entertainment. I don't find that entertaining.
Which is the reason why we did not review Till.
Exactly. I consciously chose not to review Till for that exact thing. And so to have Trayvon Martin's parents out there, I get what they're doing. They're like, oh, the fight continues, goes on till today. Like, I get it, but there's gotta.
That's exactly what that scene. That's exactly what that scene was meant for.
Yeah, but there's got to be a better way to do that, right? Then actually get like the parents of a real victim out.
How do you depict something that's been going on for decades and decades of decades and show how it connects to now without having in the people that it happens to now?
It's hard. But that's why we have writers, right? That's why we pay these Hollywood writers the big bucks. I didn't like that. I was like, no, don't leave those people alone. Don't put them in this movie. So that left a nasty taste in my mouth. But if I ignore that, when it's easy to do because it's just the last scene, overall, I like the movie. I just wish we got more Chadwick.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into the rating of Marshall. I wish there was more Chadwick in this film, and great actors, man. It's another thing of great actors that's lifting up a film like this.
Yeah,
and we just wanted more from Chadwick, and what he did display, I believe it was good. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this film, and I'm deducting points, okay, for that very reason. I'm giving it C+ still.
C+. I'm giving this one a B-. I liked it better than 42, but this still is, I guess racism is a tough topic to tackle on film. And I'm not sure if this film really did that well. And I feel like Thurgood Marshall, while it's smart to just focus on one aspect of a great man's life and his whole life, I think it's smart just to focus on one aspect. But you would be forgiven if you didn't know this man was a Supreme Court justice, right?
Yeah.
Because none of that is here.
At the end of this film, they let everyone know and with who the real Thurgood Marshall is, which, by the way...
Yeah, there's a little blurb while everybody's walking out of the theater.
Exactly. By the way, Thurgood Marshall was a light-skinned black man.
Yeah,
and,
true. I just had a thought. Do you know who actually makes a better Thurgood Marshall? Jesse Smollett's in this film.
Juicy Smouye!
He physically looks more like Thurgood Marshall than Chadwick. Oh my god!
And he's playing Langston
Hughes. Woo. As soon as that movie started, I was like, Jesse Smollett. I couldn't believe it.
I was like, Juicy Smouye?
So you see how complicated the issue of race is? Here's one man who lied about a racist attempt, talking in a movie about a real life racist attempt. Race is a tough, complex issue, and I think you gotta have an adept hand at this. And I find most movies just do not at Oh, and so looking at this film through modern eyes, with Jussie Smollett sitting there at the table next to a man pretending to be Thurgood Marshall, I think that's just exactly symbolic of why I think how I think a lot of movies fall flat on their face when talking about race.
Well, I gave this film a C+, and Devin gave this film a B-. Do you recommend it, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, check it out. But don't check it out for Chadwick Boseman. You'll be disappointed. His role is good, but he's not in here a lot. Check it out for the story.
Yeah, check it out for the story. Really good story that they put in here. But that is our rating and review for Marshall.
The only way to get through a bigot's door was to break it down.
Thank you for clicking on this video. Our subscriber count has been going up tremendously lately, and we really do appreciate you guys. You guys are the reasons why we do these movie reviews, because we love movies and we know you love movies too. So if you can do us a favor, hit that subscribe button right down there if you're new to us, okay? Get to know us more, okay? And if you did like this rating review of these two films, please hit that thumbs up. Let us help out. Or you can hit that thumbs down. Whichever you choose, it is your opinion. Just remember one thing, it is mostly wrong. See you guys on another awesome video.